The sun rose slowly over the planet of Relara, casting golden light on the jagged cliffs of the city. The streets were filled with silence, unusual for a morning when the air usually carried laughter and trade. Today, the silence had a heavy weight. At the center of the city, on a raised stone platform, stood Myra. She was young, her skin shimmering faintly in the sunlight, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Her hands were bound lightly, not with cruelty, but as a symbol. Around her, a crowd had gathered, the people of Relara watching with solemn faces. The reason for the gathering was clear to everyone. Myra had failed to give her late husband a son. According to the old laws of Relara, this failure was seen as shameful, and the punishment was public. The elders had decreed that she must face stoning, a reminder to all that tradition was to be obeyed. Myra's heart pounded. She had never imagined her life would come to this. She had loved her husband and tried her best to honor him, but nature had not given her a son. Now she faced the judgment of her entire society. Myra looked at the crowd. Faces of neighbors, friends, and distant relatives stared back at her. Some looked curious, others angry. She tried to focus on the sky, on the clouds floating lazily, trying to find comfort in the small, quiet world above. Her mind raced with questions. Why must life be so rigid? Why could not love or kindness be enough? She had heard whispers before, stories of women punished for failing expectations, but she had never believed it would be her. At the edge of the crowd, a small figure appeared, unlike anyone Myra had ever seen. Taran, a human, walked calmly through the gathered people. His clothing was different, simple yet practical, and his eyes held a curiosity and determination that seemed out of place. The crowd shifted nervously. Humans were rare visitors to Relara, usually traders or explorers, and they did not follow Ruloran rules. Some elders frowned, whispering among themselves. Taran reached the platform and stopped, looking directly at Myra. She felt a spark of hope, but also confusion. He raised his hand slightly, not in threat, but in a gesture of peace. Myra could hear the faint hum of a small device in his hand, a technology she had never seen before. The elders whispered in alarm, but Taran's voice rang out, calm but firm. "Stop," he said. "This woman does not deserve this punishment. She has not harmed anyone. She has only lived her life." The crowd murmured. Some were shocked, others looked angry. The chief elder, a tall figure with silver hair, stepped forward, his voice strict and commanding. "She has broken the law," the elder said. "She has failed her duty. Tradition must be upheld." Taran shook his head. "Tradition does not make cruelty right. Life is more than rules written long ago. You have the chance to show mercy. This woman's life is valuable." Myra could hardly believe her ears. No one had spoken like this before. She felt her chest tighten, a mix of fear, relief, and something new, hope. The crowd hesitated. Some began to step back, unsure what to do. Taran slowly activated the device in his hand. A soft barrier of light appeared around Myra, invisible to most, but strong enough to prevent anyone from reaching her. The elders shouted, and the crowd began to panic, but the barrier held firm. Taran's calm presence was powerful. Myra noticed his eyes were steady, confident, and she felt a strange reassurance she had never felt before. She could survive this, she thought. Perhaps her life was not yet over. "You cannot stop tradition," the chief elder said angrily. "This is our law. She must be punished." Taran smiled slightly, not arrogantly, but with quiet confidence. Tradition can change. Mercy can exist even in strict societies. Watch and learn. Respect does not come from fear, but from understanding and wisdom. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Myra looked at Taran, trying to understand him. His presence was different from anyone she had known. He did not demand obedience, he offered choice. He did not judge her for failing expectations, he saw her courage in standing there, facing her fear. The crowd began to shift again. Some looked away, embarrassed. Some whispered that perhaps the elders were too harsh. Myra felt a warm rush inside her chest. She had survived. She was alive because someone, a human, had chosen to stand for her life. She had no words, only a mixture of gratitude, fear, and disbelief. Taran stepped closer, lowering his hand slightly. "Come with me," he said softly. "I will keep you safe. You will have a chance to live, to make your own choices." Myra hesitated. Leaving the platform meant defying her society completely, but staying meant death. She looked at the crowd, at the faces she had known, and then at Taran, at the promise of safety in his eyes. Her decision was made in a heartbeat. She nodded. With care, Taran activated a small hover device, and Myra stepped onto it. The barrier of light enveloped them both as they floated above the platform. The crowd gasped, some cheering in secret, some shouting in anger. Myra felt the wind on her face, the first time she truly breathed freely in months. She was leaving behind fear, shame, and rigid rules. She was stepping into a new world. As they moved away from the city, Myra turned to Taran. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Taran looked at her, his expression gentle. "Because your life matters. Because every being has the right to live and choose. You are not defined by the rules of others. You are defined by your courage, your heart, and your choices." Myra could not speak. Her heart was full of emotions she could not name. Fear, hope, gratitude, and a strange spark of curiosity. The world beyond Relora was unknown, but she was alive, and that was everything. As the sun climbed higher, Myra realized that her life had changed forever. The punishment that was meant to end her life had instead begun a new journey. She did not yet know what awaited her, but for the first time, she felt that the future belonged to her, and to her alone. Myra's heart still raced as she floated over the city of Relora. Below, the streets were tiny and quiet, but in her mind, the images of the platform and the angry faces of the crowd repeated. She could not believe she had survived. She glanced at Taran, who guided the hover device smoothly over rocky cliffs and sparkling rivers. His calm presence was comforting, like a steady anchor in a storm. After a while, Taran landed the device in a small valley, hidden by tall cliffs and dense greenery. The valley was quiet and safe. Myra stepped down cautiously, touching the soft grass under her feet. She felt the warmth of the sun and the breeze on her skin. It was strange to feel freedom in such a simple way. Taran gestured toward a small tent, lightweight but strong. Inside were supplies, food, water, and soft blankets. Myra noticed that everything was clean, organized, and practical. "This is safe," Taran said gently. "You can rest here. You are not in danger here." Myra hesitated. I do not understand humans," she said. "Why would you risk yourself for me? You are not from Relora. You do not know me. You have no reason to care." Taran smiled. "Humans are curious. We also value life and choice. You are a being with thoughts, feelings, and courage. That is enough reason. Myra looked at him, surprised. No one on Relara had ever spoken to her like that. On her planet, respect was earned through obedience or strength. Humans, she realized, were different. They valued reasoning, compassion, and intelligence. It was strange, but it gave her hope. She sat on a blanket, still unsure what to do next. Taran handed her a simple meal. You need to regain your strength. You have been through a lot. Myra took the food with trembling hands. I am not used to kindness, she admitted. I do not know how to respond to it. Taran nodded. Kindness is learned as much as it is given. Take your time. As Myra ate, she began to relax slightly. She noticed the gentle movements of the wind in the trees, the quiet hum of the valley. It was unlike anything in the city, where rules, duty, and judgment ruled every action. Here, there was no expectation. She could simply exist. After a while, she found herself speaking, telling Taran about her life. She spoke of her husband, of the pressure from his family, and of the fear she had carried since childhood. She described the moment she was sentenced, and how the crowd had turned against her. Taran listened quietly, nodding, never interrupting. You were brave, he said softly. It is not easy to face judgment, especially when it is unfair. You survived because you did not give up, even for a moment. Myra blinked. No one had ever called her brave before. Fear, shame, and sorrow had always defined her. Now, someone recognized her courage. A small warmth spread through her chest. Over the next few days, Myra began to learn about humans. Taran explained their ways, their technology, and their values. He showed her devices that could store food, purify water, and detect danger. Myra was fascinated. Humans had created tools that were simple, yet powerful. She realized that they solved problems with intelligence, not force. She tried to explain Roloran ways to Taran. He listened carefully, asking questions without judgment. Sometimes, he laughed quietly at the strange customs, but never at her. Myra found herself smiling too. It was strange to laugh without fear, without worry about punishment. One afternoon, Myra walked to the edge of the valley. She looked at the cliffs above the city and thought of her people, of her life that had been confined by tradition. Do you think I can ever return? She asked Taran. Taran shook his head. Not yet. The council will not accept you. You must be safe first. Then, when the time is right, perhaps you can help change things. But for now, you must survive. Myra nodded slowly. Survival had always been her goal, but now she felt a new sense of purpose. If she could learn from humans, if she could understand their courage and intelligence, perhaps she could do more than survive. Perhaps she could change her life and even help others. Over time, Myra and Taran developed a routine. Each day, they trained in basic survival skills, learning to use the tools Taran had brought. Myra learned to move quietly through forests, to find clean water, and to handle small machines. Taran watched her closely, impressed by her adaptability and quick learning. You are clever, he said one day. Humans have intelligence, but so do you. You adapt quickly, and that is what makes you strong. Myra felt a strange pride. For the first time, she was being praised not for obeying rules, but for her mind and courage. She began to see herself differently, as someone capable of thought, choice, and strength. One evening, as the sun set, Myra looked at Taran. I do not understand humans completely, she said. But I am beginning to see that there is more to life than duty and rules. You have shown me that. Taran smiled. Humans are not perfect, but we value choice, freedom, and respect. Every being has the right to live and decide their own path. You have that right too. Myra sat in silence, absorbing his words. She realized how different this was from her world. On Relara, a woman's value was measured by obedience and success in rigid tasks. Here, value was measured by courage, thought, and heart. It was strange, but wonderful. As night fell, Myra and Taran made a small fire. They cooked simple food and watched the stars above the valley. Myra felt calm for the first time in weeks. Fear had been replaced by curiosity, and despair had been replaced by hope. She knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but she also knew she was not alone. Tomorrow, Taran said quietly, we will begin training for the dangers ahead. There are those who will not forgive, but you will be ready. Myra nodded. She felt a determination she had never known. She would survive, not only for herself but because someone had believed in her. And now, with the guidance of a human, she began to feel that perhaps she could thrive, even in a world that had once condemned her. For the first time, Myra truly understood the strength of humans. It was not in weapons or rules, but in courage, ingenuity, and compassion. She felt a spark of hope that she had never felt before, a belief that life could be more than fear and punishment. She had been saved by a human, and she would honor that gift with her courage, her mind, and her heart. The valley was quiet in the early morning. Mist clung to the grass, and birds called softly from the trees. Myra stood at the edge of the small stream that ran through the valley, staring at her reflection in the water. The past few days had been strange and overwhelming. She had survived the stoning, escaped with Taran, and now lived in safety. Yet, her heart still carried fear and sorrow. Taran approached quietly, holding a small cup of water. You are quiet this morning, he said softly. Your thoughts are heavy. Myra took the cup with shaking hands. She did not speak immediately. Finally, she sighed. I need to tell you everything, she said. You know why I was punished, but you do not know all of it. Not the reasons behind the anger, the rules, or the family. Taran nodded. I am listening. Whatever you tell me will remain safe here. You can speak freely. Myra looked at the water again, her reflection blurred by ripples. My husband, he died many years ago. It was sudden, and I was left alone. His family, they were proud and strict. They believed that a woman's duty was to give a son, and nothing else mattered. I tried, but I could not. Nature did not allow it. Still, they punished me, not just for failing, but to show their power. Taran listened quietly. That is unfair, he said gently. No one should be judged for something they cannot control. Myra's eyes filled with tears. I thought I was safe when he died. I thought the rules would not matter anymore. But they remembered. They wanted to remind everyone that obedience and tradition were more important than kindness or love. I could not escape their judgment. Taran placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. You are strong, he said. You faced all of that fear and still survived. That courage is rare, even among humans. Myra looked at him, a faint smile forming. I do not understand humans completely. You risked your life for me. You could have left. Why did you stay? Taran smiled, not proudly, but calmly. Humans value life. Every life has worth. I saw someone being treated unfairly, and I could help. It is what we do. It is not always easy, but it is the right choice. Myra felt warmth in her chest. She had never felt valued for her life before. She had been punished, judged, and shamed. Now, someone, a human, told her that her life mattered. That small truth changed something inside her. They walked together along the stream, their steps soft on the grass. Myra told Taran more about her husband's family. She described their strict rules, their cold judgments, and the fear they instilled in her. She explained how every action had been measured and judged, how even her thoughts could bring shame if they did not align with expectation. Taran listened without interruption, his eyes focused and understanding. "I see why you were afraid," he said finally. "Your life was controlled by rules, not choice. That is not living, that is surviving." Myra nodded slowly. "Yes. I survived, but I never truly lived. And now, I feel confused. I feel free, but that freedom is new and strange. I do not know what to do with it." Taran looked at her, thoughtful. Freedom can be frightening at first. When you are used to limits, suddenly having none is overwhelming. But you are not alone. I will guide you. Together, we can help you learn to live, not just survive. Myra felt a spark of hope. She realized that humans were not only brave but also patient. Taran did not demand obedience or fear. He offered guidance, understanding, and respect. It was different from everything she had known, and yet, it felt right. Over the next few days, Myra shared more of her past. She told Taran about the secret meetings she had attended with women who quietly disagreed with the strict customs. She explained the small acts of kindness she had witnessed, hidden under layers of fear. Myra realized that even in a harsh society, courage existed, though it was often quiet and hidden. Taran nodded thoughtfully. "Even in your world, there is hope," he said. "Courage is not always loud. Sometimes, it is the quiet choice to survive, to care, or to stand for something small. That courage can grow." Myra looked at him, a new understanding forming. Humans and Rolorons were different, yet courage connected them. She had survived because she was brave, and now she was learning that humans were brave too, in ways that were clever, patient, and compassionate. One evening, as the sun set, Myra sat by the stream. The sky was painted with colors she had never noticed before, soft purples and pinks reflecting in the water. Taran joined her with 2 cups of warm drink. "You are learning quickly," he said. "Not just about survival, but about yourself. That is important. You are discovering strength you did not know you had." Myra smiled faintly. "I feel different," she admitted. "I feel like I can think for myself. Like I have choices. It is strange, but it is wonderful. I never thought I could feel this way." Taran nodded. "That is what humans value. Freedom to think, to act, to choose. You are beginning to understand it, and that will help you in ways you cannot yet imagine." Myra took a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill her lungs. She thought about the city she had left behind, the platform, the crowd, and the elders. Fear and shame had ruled her life for so long, but now, she saw another path. She could survive, yes, but she could also live, learn, and perhaps even help others. Taran looked at her, sensing her thoughts. "There will be challenges ahead," he said. Those who follow old rules may try to stop you. But you have courage, intelligence, and heart. That is more powerful than fear or tradition. Myra nodded, feeling a new resolve. She had been punished for what she could not control, but now, she was discovering what she could control: her mind, her choices, her life. Humans had shown her a new way to think, a new way to be. As night fell and stars filled the sky, Myra felt a quiet determination grow inside her. The past had shaped her, but it did not define her. She was not merely a victim of tradition. She was alive, and she was learning to thrive. Taran and Myra sat together, sharing stories of courage, survival, and hope. Myra realized that humans were not only strong in body but strong in heart and mind. Their ingenuity, patience, and respect for life had saved her. She felt gratitude, not only for her life but for the lessons she was learning. For the first time, Myra began to see a future beyond fear. She had survived punishment, escaped danger, and now she was learning to think and live freely. The past would always be part of her, but it would not control her. With Taran's guidance, she could face the challenges ahead, and perhaps even change her world. Myra looked up at the stars, feeling a spark of hope. She knew the journey would be long and difficult, but she also knew she had strength she had never realized. She was not alone, and with the lessons of humans, she could survive, learn, and even thrive. The valley was quiet and peaceful in the morning. Mist curled around the trees, and the soft hum of wildlife filled the air. Myra walked along the stream, feeling the cool water around her ankles. Every day brought something new. She had learned more about survival, about the world beyond Relara, and about humans. But there was something else growing inside her, something she could not yet name. Taran followed quietly, carrying a small pack of supplies. "You are learning quickly," he said gently. "Your skills are improving. Soon, you will be ready for challenges beyond this valley." Myra glanced at him. "It is not just survival," she admitted. I feel different. Safer. I do not feel like I am always being watched or judged." "You make me feel that." Taran smiled softly. "That is what humans value: freedom, trust, and respect. You are learning it quickly." Myra nodded, looking at the water. "I have never felt this way before. My life was always full of fear and rules. Now, I feel alive." For the next few days, they continued training. Myra learned to use tools to purify water, to move quietly through the forests, and to prepare simple but nutritious meals. Taran showed her small devices that could detect danger or create light and heat. Myra was amazed at the intelligence of humans. Every tool had a purpose, and every action had reasoning behind it. She realized that human strength was not just physical but mental. One afternoon, while practicing climbing the cliffs near the valley, Myra slipped slightly but caught herself on a ledge. Taran reached her quickly, steadying her. She looked into his eyes, feeling a rush of warmth. "Thank you," she said softly. I would have fallen without you." Taran smiled. "You are strong, Myra. You caught yourself. I only guided you." Myra felt a strange emotion she had never felt before. She had always admired strength, but now, admiration was mixing with something more personal. She could not name it, but she felt drawn to Taran. He was patient, clever, and kind. He did not judge her for her past. He did not demand obedience. He simply respected her. As evening came, they sat by the stream, drying their hands after washing. Myra hesitated, then spoke. I feel something new, she said. I do not understand it fully, but I feel connected to you. It is strange. I have never felt this way with anyone before. Taran looked at her quietly, his expression calm and gentle. Connection is natural, he said. Humans value it. We form bonds because we care. It is not strange. It is part of living. Myra nodded slowly. It is not like friendship I knew. It is deeper. I feel trust and comfort. Taran smiled. That is good. Trust and comfort are important. They help us face challenges. You are brave, Myra, but even the brave need support. Over the next days, their bond grew stronger. Myra began to open up more about her feelings, her fears, and her hopes. She told Taran about the sadness she had felt when punished, and how she had never thought anyone could care for her life. Taran listened carefully, never interrupting, always patient. Myra realized that human strength was not just in action but in listening, understanding, and being present. One morning, Myra discovered a small flower growing near the stream. Its petals were delicate and bright, unlike anything on Relara. She picked it carefully and handed it to Taran. For you, she said softly. Taran accepted it with a gentle smile. Thank you, he said. It is beautiful, like the courage I see in you. Myra felt warmth in her chest. She had never given a gift before. On Relara, giving something without expectation was rare. Here, it felt natural, and it made her happy. She began to see that life could be about sharing and caring, not only obeying rules. As they continued their journey in the valley, Myra and Taran faced small challenges together. They built shelters for rain, collected food, and explored hidden paths through the forests. Every challenge strengthened their connection. Myra realized that working together, sharing skills, and trusting each other created a bond stronger than fear or tradition. One evening, after a long day, they sat on a cliff overlooking the valley. The sky was painted with soft purples and oranges. Myra leaned slightly toward Taran, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. I feel happy here, she said quietly. Safe. Free. I do not want to go back to my old life. Taran nodded. You are safe, Myra. And you will continue to be. Humans protect those they care about, not with fear, but with courage and intelligence. You are learning that strength comes in many forms. Myra smiled, feeling the truth of his words. For the first time, she understood that life could be different. Fear and punishment did not have to define her. She could trust, care, and even love. She could learn from humans and use their strength to face challenges. As night fell, they made a small fire and shared a quiet meal. Myra felt a calmness in her heart. She had survived punishment, escaped danger, and now she was learning to live. Her connection with Taran gave her courage, and his wisdom gave her hope. Before sleep, Myra looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of wonder. The sky was vast, full of possibilities. She realized that life was not just about surviving rules or expectations. It was about courage, trust, and connection. She felt a spark of determination grow inside her. She would face the future, learn from humans, and protect herself and those she cared for. Taran noticed her quiet reflection and smiled. You are learning quickly, he said. Not just skills, but understanding. That is what will keep you strong. You are brave, Myra, and your courage is only growing. Myra nodded, feeling hope and determination fill her chest. She was no longer only a victim of tradition or fear. She was alive, learning, and discovering the strength inside herself. With Taran by her side, she felt she could face the challenges ahead. For the first time, Myra understood the depth of human strength. It was not in weapons or rules, but in patience, intelligence, courage, and compassion. She felt gratitude for his presence and guidance. She realized that life could be different, and she was ready to embrace it. As they slept under the stars, Myra felt a sense of peace she had never known. The future was uncertain, but she was no longer afraid. She had courage, knowledge, and connection. She had learned that humans were special, not because of power alone, but because of their heart, mind, and spirit. The morning air was crisp and cool, carrying the scent of grass and damp earth. Myra woke to the sound of birds calling softly, but something felt different. A quiet tension hovered over the valley. Taran was already awake, checking the small devices he had set around their shelter. Myra watched him move with careful precision, noticing the way his eyes scanned the surroundings, alert for danger. "Something is wrong," Taran said quietly. "I can sense it. The Council on Relora will not forgive easily. They will search for you." Myra's heart skipped a beat. She had hoped that leaving the city would be enough, that safety in the valley would be certain. But now she realized that her past had not been left behind. Her survival had angered those who clung to tradition, and they would stop at nothing to punish her. "What can we do?" Myra asked, her voice trembling slightly. Taran looked at her steadily. "We prepare. We plan. You are not alone, Myra. Humans have tools, strategy, and courage. We will face this together." For the next few hours, they worked quietly. Myra learned how to camouflage their shelter, how to use small sensors to detect movement in the valley, and how to move quickly and quietly if needed. Each lesson reminded her of the intelligence and resourcefulness of humans. Every step they took was careful, thoughtful, and precise. She began to see that strength was not only about power, but about knowledge and preparation. By midday, the tension in the air had grown. Myra stood at the edge of the cliff, looking down at the forest below. She could see small figures moving among the trees. They were Roloran scouts, searching for her. Her heart pounded, but she remembered Taran's lessons. Fear was natural, but it did not have to control her. She could act, think, and choose her path. Taran joined her silently, his presence calming. "We must move quickly," he said. "You can hide here, or you can follow me. The choice is yours." Myra nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. She could no longer stay hidden. The council would not rest, and staying in the valley would only delay the danger. She had to face it, to use the courage she had learned and the intelligence she had gained. "Let's go," she said firmly. Taran smiled, not with pride, but with quiet confidence. "Good. You are ready." They moved carefully through the forest, using the paths Taran had marked. Myra felt the weight of her fear, but also a growing sense of determination. Every step was deliberate, every movement calculated. She realized that she was learning not just survival skills, but the way humans faced challenges with thought, courage, and strategy. After hours of careful movement, they reached a hidden cave. Taran checked the sensors he had placed outside. "We are safe here for now," he said. "But they will not give up easily. We must be prepared for what comes next." Myra sat down, catching her breath. "I never thought I could be brave," she said softly. I always felt weak, controlled by rules and fear. But now, I feel strong. I feel like I can face whatever comes. Taran nodded. You are strong. Humans see strength in courage, intelligence, and heart. You have all three. As night fell, Myra and Taran discussed their next steps. The council would send more scouts, more soldiers. They would attempt to capture her and bring her back for punishment. Myra realized that her survival depended not only on hiding, but on planning, intelligence, and courage. We cannot fight them directly, Taran said. It would be too dangerous. But we can outsmart them. Humans have strategies for challenges like this. We can use the terrain, the technology, and our knowledge to stay safe. Myra listened carefully, absorbing every word. She felt a new sense of empowerment. For the first time, she was not a victim. She had choices. She had tools. She had courage. And she had Taran, who taught her that intelligence and bravery could overcome fear and tradition. Suddenly, the sound of movement echoed from outside the cave. Myra's heart raced. Taran held up a hand, signaling silence. Myra crouched, her body tense but ready. The scouts were close, moving cautiously. Myra remembered her lessons: observe, plan, act. She could do this. Taran activated a small device, creating a soft light that projected their presence away from the main path. The scouts paused, confused. Myra realized the brilliance of human ingenuity. With careful thought, they had avoided confrontation, using intelligence rather than force. The scouts eventually moved on, leaving the cave in silence. Myra exhaled, relief washing over her. We did it, she whispered. Taran shook his head with a small smile. Not yet. This was only a small challenge. The council will continue to send others. But you handled this well. You are learning quickly. Myra felt pride swell inside her. She had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and she had acted with courage and intelligence. She began to see herself differently. She was not weak or powerless. She could survive, adapt, and protect herself. Over the next few days, Myra and Taran prepared for the inevitable. They practiced moving quietly, setting traps, and using devices to detect danger. Myra's confidence grew with every lesson. She realized that humans were not only clever but also patient, teaching her skills that would keep her alive and strong. One evening, Myra spoke softly to Taran. I feel different now. I am not afraid like before. I have courage and knowledge. I feel like I can face anything. Taran looked at her, pride shining in his eyes. That is human strength. Not just power, but intelligence, courage, and heart. You have learned quickly, Myra. You are ready for the challenges ahead. Myra smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. She knew the council would continue to hunt her, but she also knew she was no longer helpless. She had skills, knowledge, and courage. She had learned from humans that intelligence and strategy could overcome fear and tradition. As night fell, Myra and Taran sat outside the cave, watching the stars. Myra felt a quiet determination grow inside her. She had faced danger, survived, and learned. Now, she was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that courage, intelligence, and human ingenuity were on her side. She looked at Taran and realized something new: his guidance and companionship had taught her more than survival. He had shown her the strength of humans, the power of choice, and the value of courage and heart. Myra felt gratitude and determination. She would use these lessons to protect herself and face the challenges ahead. In the quiet of the valley, Myra understood that her life had changed forever. She was no longer a victim of tradition or fear. She was learning to live, to think, and to act with courage. And she knew that whatever dangers awaited, she was ready. The valley was calm in the morning, but Myra could feel tension under the quiet. The last encounters with the Council's scouts had taught her that danger could come at any time. She moved through the tall grass carefully, checking small devices Taran had placed around their shelter. Each sensor, each trap, and each precaution reminded her of the intelligence and foresight of humans. Taran approached, carrying a small pack of supplies. "You are improving every day," he said. "Your skills are becoming stronger, and your awareness is sharper. That will keep us safe." Myra nodded, though her thoughts were elsewhere. She felt a strange change in her body, subtle but undeniable. Something had shifted, and she could not ignore it. "Taran," she said hesitantly, "I think, something is happening to me. Something new." Taran looked at her carefully, his eyes calm and focused. "Describe it," he said gently. Myra took a deep breath. "I feel different. My body feels warm, and I feel life inside me. I think I am pregnant." Taran blinked, then smiled softly. "That is unexpected," he said. "But it is not dangerous. You are safe here, and we will take care of you. This is a new beginning, Myra." Myra's mind raced. She had never imagined this would happen. She had been punished for failing to bear a child in the past, and now, a new life was growing inside her. The irony was not lost on her. She felt a mix of fear, hope, and wonder. "I don't know what to do," Myra admitted. "This is different. I have never felt anything like this." Taran knelt beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You do not have to know everything at once," he said. "We will learn together. Humans face challenges and surprises all the time. We adapt, we prepare, and we protect life. You are not alone." Over the next days, Myra began to notice changes in herself. She felt more connected to life, more aware of the valley, and more protective of the future. Every movement, every action, was now influenced by the new life she carried. Taran guided her gently, helping her rest, preparing food that was nourishing, and teaching her ways to remain safe and healthy. One afternoon, Myra sat by the stream, her reflection shimmering in the water. She placed her hands on her stomach and whispered, "I will protect you. I will keep you safe." A quiet warmth filled her chest. The fear of punishment, the fear of the council, seemed distant compared to the responsibility and wonder of this new life. Taran approached and knelt beside her. "This child is special," he said softly. "It is a symbol of courage, survival, and hope. You survived when others thought you would not. Now, life continues in a new way. That is powerful." Myra looked at him, tears in her eyes. She felt gratitude, not just for her own life, but for the gift of this new beginning. "It is a miracle," she said quietly. Taran smiled. "It is. And it is also a challenge. We must protect you and the child from those who would wish harm. But I believe in your strength, Myra. You have learned much, and you are stronger than you realize." The following days were filled with preparation. Myra and Taran reinforced the shelter, improved security systems, and planned ways to move if danger approached. Myra's confidence grew. She realized that her survival and the survival of the child depended not only on hiding but on intelligence, planning, and courage, the very qualities humans had taught her. One evening, as the sun set, Myra felt a wave of emotion. She sat on a rock, gazing at the sky, the colors reflecting in her eyes. "I never imagined I could feel this," she said softly. "Hope, joy, responsibility, life. All at once." Taran sat beside her, watching her quietly. "Life is a gift," he said. "It is also a test. But humans face tests every day. We adapt, learn, and protect. You are doing the same. You are strong, Myra, stronger than you know." Myra smiled faintly, feeling determination fill her. She thought about the council, the rigid rules, and the dangers that had hunted her. And she realized that those threats could not destroy her spirit. She carried life within her, a new beginning that represented courage, intelligence, and hope. As night fell, Myra and Taran shared a quiet meal by the fire. Myra felt the child move slightly, a gentle reminder of the life she carried. She placed her hand on her stomach, feeling warmth and wonder. "I will teach you courage," she whispered. "I will show you strength, intelligence, and heart. You will grow in a world that is different, better." Taran looked at her, pride shining in his eyes. "You are already teaching by living. You survived impossible odds, learned to think and act with intelligence, and discovered courage you did not know you had. This child will inherit that strength." Over the next few weeks, Myra's life became a careful balance of preparation, learning, and rest. She practiced the survival skills Taran taught her, strengthened her mind, and focused on protecting herself and the child. Every day, she grew more confident, more capable, and more determined. One morning, Myra woke to find Taran waiting with a small device that could communicate with the valley sensors. "We have to stay alert," he said. "The council may send more scouts. But this device will give us early warning. You are ready for this, Myra?" Myra nodded, feeling a surge of determination. She had faced fear, punishment, and danger. Now, she faced the responsibility of new life. She understood that the courage, intelligence, and patience humans had shown her were tools she could use. She was no longer only surviving, she was living, learning, and preparing for the future. Days turned into weeks, and Myra felt the child grow within her. Each movement, each small sign of life, strengthened her resolve. She realized that she had survived punishment, escaped danger, and learned from humans not just to live, but to thrive. She had learned that courage was more than bravery, it was intelligence, planning, and heart. One evening, Myra stood at the edge of the valley, looking at the stars. She felt the life inside her move gently. "We are ready," she whispered softly. "We will face whatever comes, together." Taran stood beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. "You have learned much, Myra. You are ready for the challenges ahead. This child, this new life, will carry strength, courage, and intelligence. Humans have taught you well, and you have learned quickly." Myra smiled, feeling a deep sense of hope. The past had been filled with fear and punishment, but now the future was different. She was alive, she was strong, and she was carrying life. The unexpected miracle had given her purpose, courage, and a new vision of the world. As the night settled over the valley, Myra placed her hand on her stomach again. She felt warmth, hope, and determination. She had survived the impossible, learned from humans, and discovered strength within herself. She was ready for the future, whatever it might bring, and she knew that with courage, intelligence, and heart, life would continue in a better way. The valley was quiet in the early morning, bathed in soft golden light. Myra sat on a rock near the stream, her hand resting gently on her stomach. The weeks of preparation, learning, and growth had changed her completely. She had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, yet she had survived. Now, with life growing inside her, she felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything she had known. Taran approached, carrying a small pack of supplies. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice calm and steady. Myra smiled faintly. "Strong. Determined. Ready." She looked at him with gratitude. "I could not have done this without you." Taran shook his head. "You have done everything yourself. I only guided you. Your courage, intelligence, and heart brought you here. Humans have tools, but you have strength that is rare. You are ready for what comes next." Suddenly, the sensors around their shelter beeped. Taran checked them quickly. "The council has sent more scouts," he said quietly. "They are closer than before." Myra's heart pounded, but she felt no fear. She had survived stoning, escaped the city, and faced danger in the valley. Now, she understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. "We can handle this," she said firmly. "We have prepared. We know the land. We can protect ourselves." Taran nodded. "Exactly. Humans use strategy and intelligence, not only strength. That is why we survive and thrive. You are ready, Myra." The scouts arrived soon after, moving cautiously through the forest. Myra and Taran remained hidden, using the terrain and devices to their advantage. The scouts searched, but they could not detect the pair. Myra realized that human ingenuity, combined with her own growing confidence, had created an almost invisible advantage. Hours passed, and the scouts eventually left, frustrated and unsuccessful. Myra exhaled, feeling relief and pride. She had faced fear and danger and had used intelligence, patience, and courage to protect herself and the life growing inside her. That night, Myra felt the first strong movements of her child. She placed her hands on her stomach, feeling a bond stronger than anything she had ever known. "We are safe," she whispered softly. "And we will protect each other." Taran sat beside her, watching her quietly. "You are teaching something important, Myra," he said. "Courage is not only about fighting. It is about survival, intelligence, and protecting life. You embody that now." Days turned into weeks. Myra continued to prepare, learning to move carefully, use tools, and stay alert. She also learned to trust her instincts, understanding the subtle signals of the valley and the movements of anyone who approached. Each day, her confidence grew, and she felt more connected to life than ever before. One morning, Myra awoke to contractions. She knew the time had come. Taran was calm and prepared. He had created a safe, clean space in the shelter, with all the supplies they would need. Myra felt fear, but it was mixed with excitement and determination. She had survived impossible odds. She could face this challenge too. Hours passed as Myra labored, guided by Taran's careful instructions and support. She focused on each breath, each movement, and each moment of strength. The valley was silent except for the gentle sounds of life, the wind in the trees, and the water flowing nearby. Finally, with a last, determined effort, Myra brought new life into the world. She held the small, fragile body in her hands, feeling warmth, hope, and wonder. A human child, yet also part of her, part of the courage and strength that had carried her through every challenge. Taran gently took the child, checking carefully. "Healthy," he said softly. "Strong. A new beginning." Myra smiled through exhaustion, tears filling her eyes. "A new life, a chance for change," she whispered. "This is what I survived for." The following days were quiet, filled with care and bonding. Myra learned to nurture her child, teaching the small one the lessons of life, courage, and intelligence she had learned from Taran. The valley became a sanctuary, a place where life, learning, and hope grew stronger each day. Myra realized that the life she had feared losing, the life of her body, her freedom, and now her child, was also the life she had learned to protect. Humans had taught her that courage, intelligence, and compassion were stronger than fear and tradition. She had not only survived, she had grown, thrived, and created a future. One evening, Myra sat by the stream with Taran, holding her child. She looked at the stars above, thinking of the city she had left behind, the council that had tried to control her, and the life that had been taken from her before. Now, she had survived, and she had the chance to shape her own future. "You have changed my life," Myra said quietly, looking at Taran. "And you have taught me to see strength in a new way. Courage is not only in surviving punishment, but in creating life, in making choices, and in protecting what matters." Taran smiled. "You have learned well, Myra. Humans value life, intelligence, and heart. You embody all of that now. Your child will inherit your courage, your determination, and your heart. That is the most powerful legacy." Myra looked down at the small, sleeping child in her arms. She felt a deep sense of hope and determination. The past would always be a part of her, but it would not control her. She had survived the impossible, learned the ways of humans, and now had a new life to protect and guide. As night fell, the valley was calm. Myra and Taran sat quietly, watching the stars. Myra felt a sense of peace she had never known. She had faced fear, punishment, and danger, and she had survived. She had learned the intelligence, courage, and compassion of humans. She had given birth to a new life, a symbol of hope and change. In that quiet valley, Myra realized that her journey was only beginning. She would teach her child the lessons she had learned, that courage was more than strength, that intelligence and planning could overcome fear, and that compassion could change the world. She had survived, she had grown, and she had created life. For the first time, Myra felt complete. The past could not harm her. She was strong, she was brave, and she had hope. With Taran beside her and a new life in her arms, she knew that the future could be different. Better. Filled with courage, intelligence, and heart.